So that's where we are right now with unfulfilled objectives of regime change. They tried it early on. Notice Donald Trump. He brags about the Israeli surprise attack and then immediately implicates himself. Says, yeah, I was part of this. I helped set him up. This is all subterfuge. And then he jumps in with regime change. We don't want to do it, but I know where you sleep. I know where you are. While the Israelis are saying, yeah, we want to pretty much do this thing. And then when the Israelis fail to deliver, he gets mad at the Israelis, angry because, wait a minute, this is supposed to be the knockout punch and you didn't deliver it. And now I'm in a trap. And so he drags this thing out until he finally gets the opportunity to do his grand peacemaking deal. But Khamenei's still in power. The nuclear issue is unresolved. This hasn't gone away. This has just begun. I think the sheepskin is off the wolf, so to speak. Trump at NATO. Suddenly Zelensky's a good guy, and we're going to start to find patriots to give to Zelensky. And maybe the problem's Russia. And then his words, maybe Russia's the enemy after all. This man is just insane. Literally, we had a brain dead president, meaning brain non-functioning. But now we have a man-child, an ADHD person off his meds who's just bouncing all over the place. You're proof that they're not serious politicians. A serious politician would have challenged Trump as soon as he came off. He said, excuse me, Mr. President, what justification did you have under international law to strike Iran? Have you articulated that? We're not going to get into domestic politics. The politics between you and Congress is a domestic American thing, but we are all members of the United Nations. We'd like to know, did what you do conform to Article 2, subparagraph 4 of the Charter of the United Nations? Have you made a cognizable claim to the Security Council citing preemptive self-defense under Article 51? What was the nature of the imminent threat? And were there any alternatives to this imminent threat before you struck? You mean you were negotiating with them, so you can't make an imminent threat, because these guys are relying upon this man to come to their assistance. If Article 5, the collective self-defense promise made as NATO, is ever triggered. And this man saying he's not bound by anything. He's not bound by international law. He's not bound by the Constitution. And you really expect now that he's going to do what he says he's going to do? And the way you dealt with him isn't that you didn't stand up to him. You just brought him in, called him daddy, and just sucked up to him the whole time. This whole thing was just a Donald Trump glorification charade. Russian control. They had 99% of it, but there was this one little fortified village complex in the southwestern corner of Luhansk that was holding on for dear life. And the Russians having a hard time cracking it, but it's cracked. So Russia now occupies all of Luhansk, and in doing so, they fractured yet another defensive line, and you're going to start to see the Russians start to roll up that defensive line and continue. It's what's been happening all along the lines. There was some Ukrainian counterattacks. They get beaten back, but by and large, the Russians are just advancing, and the Ukrainians are getting weaker and weaker. It's curious. Syrskyi, the general, came out and he's trying to impress people on how Ukraine has evolved. He said, early on, we were doing battalion-sized strong points, but then we said, that's not working for us. So we went to company-sized strong points, and that's not working. So now we emphasize platoon-sized strong points, and that's not working. So we're going down to squad-sized strong points. That's the cornerstone of the Ukrainian defense doctrine, squad-sized strong points. But what he just acknowledged is that Ukraine no longer has the ability to do battalion-sized defensive operations, that yes, the war has changed. The drones have changed everything. Again, I talk about this when I talk about Russian assault tactics. They're doing things that we don't know about. Herein lies the problem. And then we bomb these sites. Now, I'm telling you, as a former weapons inspector of a nation that got bombed, when you bomb something, things get blown up. Israel brags about hitting the Iranian archives, nuclear archives. That means they've destroyed data, they've destroyed documents. So when this is all said and done, and it's going to take a long time for the IAEA and Iran to repair their relationship, if ever. When the IAEA comes back to resume monitoring, there is now a gaping hole of unknowns which are unverifiable. This is the trap that was set for Iraq. How do you prove a negative? Iraq says, you blew it up. It doesn't exist anymore. Prove to me that you had it. You blew up the documents. I don't have that anymore. Then we have to carry out forensic investigations. And now the process goes on forever. Why? Because this is never about the Iranian nuclear program. This has always been about regime change. And Trump and the Israelis are on the same page. Regime change. You can't believe a word coming out of Donald Trump's mouth about wanting to do better, lifting sanctions, this, that, or the other thing, because the man lied. He created a negotiating premise that lulled the Iranians to a false sense of complacency to facilitate an Israeli surprise attack. And the military came out and said, we run out of ammo in 14 days. And they went, oh, we're not going to fight you. No, everything's cool. It's all cool. Don't worry about it. We run out of ammo in 14 days. And that doesn't take into account. That's doing peacetime calculations, rate of fire. No, you run out of ammo in about 5 days because, first of all, you're going to war. That means that your line of communication is vulnerable. So the ammo that you're sending to the front gets hit, interdicted. As you create ammo dumps at the front, the Russians detect it, they hit it, they blow it up. So 60% of your ammo is going to be taken out before it even gets there. And then before units can fire, they fire one round, the Russian counter battery comes in. Oh no, you run out of ammo in 3 to 5 days because everybody's dead. That's the reality. See, the Russians have already solved this problem. The Russians have already built the tactics. Remember, we gave the Ukrainians HIMARS. HIMARS was our secret weapon. HIMARS is our thing where we can reach out and hit precision strike, take out command and control posts, do all this stuff. The Russians are like, thank you. We got them. We can jam them. We can shoot them down. The pipes are all leaking. And then you start. So I don't know, spend $200,000 on a house. You say, hey, I'll spend $30,000 to fix it up. And you go to the bank and you borrow 30 grand to fix it up. And you bring that in there. And next thing you know, you spent 30 grand exposing the problems. And it's only gotten worse because now you've ripped out the ceiling, you've ripped out the floor, you've ripped out everything going, we got problems. I need $320,000 to fix a $200,000 home that already has a $30,000 investment in it. Tear down the house and start over. And this is NATO right now. Their militaries are so fundamentally broken. They have taken a system that worked at one time during the Cold War. They never fixed it. They kept investing in it, but instead of it being trained to fight a war, it was just there to make a presence, to keep something alive that shouldn't have been kept alive. But now when called upon to actually do something, it can't do any of it. NATO cannot muster 20,000, let alone 60,000 troops to deploy to Ukraine. Can't do it. They don't exist. They don't know how to logistically sustain them. They don't have the trained bodies. Their training is so utterly pathetic right now. Literally, that half their troops don't even get out of garrison. You know, they put a uniform on, then they go and they eat schnitzel and they polish. This level of irrationality, we can't call 5D chess. And there's a lot of people out there saying, this is just genius. Geniuses don't post in all caps. Geniuses don't use words that are meaningless. Geniuses don't react emotionally to every little thing that happens. Spoiled children demand to get their way all the time, or they throw a temper tantrum. Donald Trump is incapable of sophisticated negotiations. He's the greatest businessman in the world, a dealer. He's bluffed his way through a whole bunch of things. Money covers up a lot of sins. And I'll give him credit. He was able to take his father's money, leverage it into things, and then leverage bankruptcy, and it became too big to fail. And he created this illusion that stupid people bought into. But here we are. This man is not very clever when it comes to the complexities of the world. Is it really? It was genius what he did. Genius to bomb 3 empty facilities in a transparent fashion and then collude with the Iranians to receive a non-threatening missile strike so that you can cut a deal with Benjamin Netanyahu to end the conflict, because Netanyahu's screaming on the phone, please make it end, make it end. But it's not genius. Liars behave this way. Dishonest people behave this way. I understand that you in order to play the game, you got to be in the game. I get it. Absolutely understand that. They did a dinner where they all just said, you're the greatest man in the world. There's a reason why we have so much money. It's because Daddy told us to save money. Daddy, you're so smart. Daddy, help us. Daddy this, Daddy that. NATO's a joke, a literal joke. They debase themselves. I'm not pro-NATO at all. I'm actually, to be honest, sitting there going, good. This is the final phase, the debasement phase. And eventually Europe will wake up and realize that NATO is ridiculous. 5%. First of all, that these are verbal commitments. We haven't seen it really. 5%? No. Spain said, hell no.
Yeah.
I don't know if they held out, but even Trump doesn't get to make that call. It has to go to their respective legislative bodies. And there is some pushback around Europe about spending money on defense. They don't know what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. So again, this 5% right now is fictional. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't know how half these economies can afford it. They're basically in default mode as it speaks. It's amazing how much money NATO spends on defense and how little they get from it. You remember in 2022, Pistorius, the defense minister of Germany, and Olaf Scholz said, we need 100 billion euros right now.
Yes.
Right now. We need to build the most vibrant, active military rapid response force, 100 billion euros. Give it to me. They've evacuated critical manufacturing equipment. There are dozens of sites under mountains all around Iran that are evacuation sites that could be readily converted into temporary manufacturing facilities if Iran wanted to pursue a bomb. So the president, again, he put everybody at risk to score some cheap talking points to help promote a Nobel Peace Prize campaign, but he hasn't solved the underlying issue of Iran's nuclear program, which is a problem because now, the president said zero enrichment. Iran says, no, there's going to be enrichment. How do we jump that hurdle? And we even have more complicating factor. The IAEA has been pretty much the relations between Iran and the IAEA have been suspended for just cause. But do people not understand the ramifications of this? Let me just break it down for you so people get it. Iran had a nuclear program. It was being monitored with some confidence by the IAEA, so much so that Rafael Grossi could go before the international community and say, yeah, I know I wrote that really bad report, but it had nothing to do with weaponization. Actually, there's no evidence that Iran is moving towards a weapons program. And that was an assessment that was fresh at the time Israel bombed. But now Rafael Grossi has to say, we've been notified by the Iranians that they've taken security measures. 6 people rush in and dig in. And so now you've got the Russians holding the position with a reinforced squad, 9 guys holding the position. And then they do a rotation. 9 fresh guys come in, grab that position. These guys go back and get cleaned up, eat, and get refreshed. And the next group of guys sends their assault team out, 3 guys, to take the next position. And that's what the Russians are doing. They're just going to squad position to squad, tree line to tree line, trench line to trench line. 3s and 6s, and it's nonstop. And the Ukrainians can't stop it. They've admitted it. The Ukrainians were stopping some parts of this with their drones. The Ukrainians were very good at flooding the zone with drones. But the Russians are perhaps one of the most adaptable militaries in the world. So when they got tired of basically crawling 1.5 kilometers in drone-infested skies to get to their assault position, only to have their assault break up with endless drones coming at them, the Russians broke the code. It's not about shooting down the drones. It's about killing the drone operators. And now the Ukrainians admit it. They can't even begin to do drone ops because the second they start, their whole world goes to hell. The most dangerous job in Ukraine today isn't frontline infantrymen. We will have a nuclear arms race if the last remaining strategic treaty between the United States and Russia that curtails strategic forces expires. Project 38 is designed to put pressure on the Trump administration to cooperate with the Russians to extend that treaty. 38 refers to 38 minutes of terror that the citizens of Hawaii felt when they were told in 2018 a missile was inbound. They thought they were all going to die. And so we're asking for 38 minutes. I'm putting together a team B of people who have been in the White House, worked in the White House, understand how the White House works, understand nuclear policy. And we're looking for 38-minute audience with Donald Trump or his senior advisors before the end of the year to make the case for extension of New START. We're going to produce a documentary film. We'll use that to educate the population so they can put pressure on their lawmakers. But it's an ambitious project, but it can't happen without assistance. So I would ask you go to my Substack. I've published a post on Project 38. Read it. And if you think it's something you could support, it certainly could use the support. The only problem is that we have to overlay that a rational actor. If you're going to lay out a rational premise, then there has to be rational actors that populate this premise. And Donald Trump just isn't a rational actor. This man is such an egomaniac, such a narcissist. that you can't exclude the possibility that much of what he's done over the course of the past week is posturing a game so he can get Barack Obama's Nobel Peace Prize, because that's what this is about, apparently. How does Donald Trump get the Peace Prize? He's set his goal on this. When you go to NATO and you lobby behind the scenes to all the heads of states, nominate me for the Peace Prize, or else I'll be a mean son of a gun. You get this is what's driving him right now, which means that this isn't serious policy. And he sent 7 B-2 bombers and a number of advanced fighters into war, into combat, where he can get a peace prize. Meanwhile, 600 plus Iranians are dead, 27 Israelis are dead, billions of dollars worth of damage has been done. The world almost went critical. So Donald Trump could get a Nobel Peace Prize. And we haven't solved anything. If you take a look at the underlying reasons for this conflict, ostensibly it was about Iran's nuclear program. And just to make sure that if they do get through, we've broken up, instead of coming in and doing the big ammo dump like they did early on in the war, and next thing HIMARS or ATACMS hit, and they get this big explosion, they go, shoot, we have to stop our offensive while we bring up more ammo. The Russians, no, disperse the ammo, bring it in, penny packets. We only bring in enough ammo to support the limited scale operation. That way we don't give the enemy a target. We dilute the target deck for the enemy. So even if they do get through our defenses, they don't end up taking out too much things of value. The Russians have already figured this out. Their whole way of fighting war is designed to minimize their casualties, maximize your casualties. And we're coming in still using Cold War era tactics. We actually think we're going to put 52 tanks in a battalion online and do a tank assault. And I'm telling you, those tanks won't even get off the line of march before the drones start popping them. And then you put 52 online, and none of them will reach the latest project. And it's basically the strategic objective is to get the United States and Russia to extend the New START treaty, which expires next February. And if you don't think that's important, then you probably need to learn a lot about nuclear arms races and what happens when that occurs. And when that little buzzing bomb comes at you, have you seen the videos? It's frightening, where they're just sitting there and you're, and they're like, oh God, please don't come here. And sometimes it goes away, sometimes it comes there. That's the reality of a Ukrainian squad. They get hit with artillery. There's no rotation, no sleeping. And then the drones come in. And then by the time they've been wounded, killed, confused, 3 Russian assault troopers come up and give them the opportunity to surrender or die. And it's that easy, surrender or die. And then the 6 come in and it's repeat and rinse. But the Ukrainians have lost all control of this battlefield. They are literally in a constant defensive posture, being pushed back. Meanwhile, the Russians are just blowing up everything in the rear. There's no air defense, no meaningful air defense. Maybe that's why Trump felt sorry for them, because now, we've sent all our air defense to Israel, but we have this ceasefire. And so now he's like, maybe I'll get some patriots over to Ukraine. The establishment has figured out Donald Trump, that you just basically have to stroke his ego, say certain things, and then you lead him down to the stream you want him to drink from.
Yeah.
So I've never seen such servile behavior in my life from what's supposed to be the world's foremost defensive alliance. Russians today are not only do they understand that they could die, but when they see the enemy, there's no hesitation. Dead. We're going to be, are those Russians? Should we shoot? Dead. They already killed us because they saw us. The Russians know how to kill. We don't. And neither does Europe. And that's going to be the fatal first part of our total collapse, because we're going to go into the initial battle, the immediate engagement, which is a very confused battle. And the Russians are going to see us and kill us. And we're going to get outflanked and we're going to be running. And then what's going to happen is we can't sustain it because we used up all our gas, used up all our ammunition. Our troops are going to go, I don't have this, I don't have that. Next, we run Battle of the Bulge type scenarios where entire American brigades are just surrendering because they can't continue the fight. Do we really want to see 5,000 Americans with their hands over their head being marched to the streets? Because that's the future. Look at the polls. Their government was like, we're going to fight the Russians. They were getting all Winston Churchill on you. Of course, we're going to fight them. We can do this. We're mobilizing. And then it got to a fever pitch where people actually thought the Poles might be going into Western Ukraine. Oh, yeah, this is Donald Trump who signed a presidential executive order saying that we don't politicize the justice system.
Yep.
But the moment that Elon Musk started saying, hey guys, this ain't what it seems. This man just squawks and he lies and says, oh, we're going to withdraw all your contracts. We're going to be investigating you. And I would hope that any judge that looked at it went, what are you talking about? So the trigger of your investigation was Elon Musk saying that what you're doing is stupid. And that's what triggered the investigation, because that's what it looks like to me. So Donald Trump is a hypocrite. He's a narcissist. He's an egomaniac. He's an ADHD special needs child. All we need to complete the picture of Donald Trump is a football helmet and a short bus. Stick him in the back seat and let him lick windows, because that's really all he's qualified to do. But now he's the president of the United States, and everybody's pretending that he's the greatest man in the world. Look, the way I view this is that we had two punch-drunk fighters. They were in the ring, and they were just knocking the snot out of each other. But they were both punch-drunk. We can't, as much as Iran was delivering decisive strikes against Israel, and Israel won't acknowledge it. They still won't talk about what's really happened. They put out some figures about destroyed apartments. Understand this, that we were literally in panic mode at certain ports when the Iranian missiles are coming in. Our systems were cooking off. Just based upon prior experience, when you start blowing out missiles, going after because what happens is you're trying to solve this battlefield picture of the enemy coming in. It's not working, because next thing you know, 15 missiles are impacting Novatum airfield, and you're going, how did that happen? So you start playing games. There's a whole bunch of smart people in there, all the contractors saying, okay, we're going to remove this shadow. We're going to emphasize this. We're going to try and collect here. And they're tweaking the system. And as they're tweaking the system, they're trying to get better clarity and resolution and such. They'll be speaking in the clear, or they'll forget to change crypto. They'll be doing a whole bunch of things. And the Chinese just sitting there going, whatever the word for thank you is in China, as they're collecting all this data of us on overload, and they're collecting all the technical data of everything that's going on, and they've absorbed it all. And then they're going to do a big data dump. And I think that's what you're going to see. One of the relationships between Iran and China is the big data dump, because it's also in China's interest. Remember this,